Hello again, folks. Today we're going to talk about something that is appropriate for this time. These are ultraviolet lights, and the ultraviolet spectrum has been used since the 1800s to clean surgical rooms, to sterilize areas where large congregations of people get together, and it's been proved very effective. Now, three things to remember about UV light. There's UVA, which basically is about the majority of what makes it through our atmosphere, and that is known to give us skin cancers and pigmentation changes. UVB, however, is more dangerous. UVB can actually interact with our DNA and form breaks in the DNA, can modify it, so we can basically get carcinomas from that. And there's one more frequency, which is UVC. Now, the UV lights that we utilize in our evaporator coils and our return air plenums is UVC, and that's what these in front of you are. Now, again, it's critical when you're working with these that you do not get your fingerprints on the bulb, okay? Sort of like a car headlight. You have to make sure that the oils from your hand do not stay on the bulb. So in other words, if you do accidentally touch the bulb while either installing or replacing, if you're not wearing gloves, then what you can do is you can take denatured alcohol and you can wipe the bulb down using alcohol. So in other words, before I'm going to touch this bulb and replace it, I'm going to make sure that my skin oils are protected from ending up on the glass tube. Because what happens is you get a hot spot on the tube because of the oil, and it will actually damage the light bulb itself. These lights are basically 9,000 hours before they need replacement. So that's roughly about 375 to 380 days. Now, they don't go out at exactly 9,000 hours, but just to look at it this way, they need to be changed once a year. The other thing that has to be added to the equipment in plain sight, and if there's access on two sides of the equipment, then we have two stickers. So it's important that you warn the next technician or the homeowner that they need to turn off the power, turn off the light bulb before taking off the service panels. Now on the front of this, there's a little LED right here, which is blue. So when the bulb is functioning, that blue LED is lit. And it's the same thing on this unit as well. So these two units are tied together with one common power cord. Now, what we can do with this is we can install one in the return air plenum. We can install one near the actual coil itself. There's some precautions that you have to take. Number one, if this is a plenum mount, you have to be sure that you clean the aluminum with alcohol so that your duct tape is going to stick. So if this has been up in an attic for a while, your plenum, the oxidation on the aluminum needs to be cleaned off. And the reason why we tape these after we install them is so that none of the ultraviolet light can leak out in a crack and affect one of the technicians. This stuff is very harmful to your eyes. Okay, there are no glasses other than using welding shades, and that makes it a little difficult when you're fumbling around in a closet or an attic trying to install or trying to change a bulb. So simply put, you have to power down. So this right here is the bulb itself. This assembly here is basically what you would put toward an area that you don't want the light to shine on. So in other words, anything that's not UV protected rubber, any type of plastics. So in other words, if you have a plastic drain pan in the unit, you have to provide some type of shading to that drain pan, because within 3 to 5 years it's going to crumble, just like any other plastic that you may see out in the yard, planters, pots. After a couple of months, after a year out in the sunlight, those black PVC little pots that you may get from Home Depot turn to dust in your hands. This has the same effect, on wire insulation. So if we are going to install these and there's cabling present in the actual blower motor housing or so on, if there's wiring present under the actual coil. So there's a couple stipulations that they bring to mind. You can't install these too close to the coil, because if any moisture comes off the coil and hits this hot lamp, guess what? The glass is going to explode. So there's some practical explanations in here. So they tell you between 3 and 6 inches is the closest you can get to a coil. And that's depending on the orientation. So if the air handler is vertical, then what they tell you is do not install one under the A coil or the N coil. And you can probably see why, because moisture may fall down upon that lens or the bulb itself. The other thing is in horizontally mounted units, so the coil's over here. Now what they want you to do is they want you to use a minimum of 6 inches above the coil. Okay, because air is being drawn horizontally across this coil, and droplets have the potential to occasionally go past the drain pan. So anyway, that's just a couple of notes. And where you find those notes is in the installation guide and service manual. So again, folks, we have an incredible amount of information here. So UV light can cause color changes or structural degradation of plastics, rubber, paper, and other non-metallic materials used in HVAC systems. So in other words, we can't put one of these in flex duct. Why? Flex duct has a mylar interior. This will degrade that mylar, and then you have no longer any insulation, or rather you have nothing covering your insulation in the mylar now. So that's one problem. It says also to shield electric wires that receive direct or reflected UV radiation with aluminum tape, sheet metal, or conduit. And when they refer to conduit, you're better off using metallic flexible conduit than what you are plastic, because you're right back to the same thing. 3 to 5 years, that plastic's going to come apart. Do not install in a flex duct. UV resistance of the flex duct is not known, so therefore install the lamp at least 6 feet away from any flex duct. All right. Install lamp at least 8 inches away from equipment or components made without UV resistant plastic. So if the equipment or the components are not made with UV resistant plastic, or if the UV resistance of the material is unknown, shield with aluminum tape or sheet metal. And also it tells you that water may damage the lamp. All right, folks. So long story short, it's been proven through years, and back in the 1800s it was first discovered that it had an effect on microbial life, has an effect on mold, mildew. There's a great deal of discussion right now as to how effective this is on viruses. We know it worked on SARS, we know it worked on MERS. Now, SARS and MERS were a version of the coronavirus. So it might lend credence to the fact that this should work to sterilize surfaces and, in this case, evaporators, air handlers that have had viral contaminants through the airstream. So once again, make sure, folks, that you read carefully. These lamps need to be changed yearly. Don't forget to put the stickers on to warn whoever it is that comes behind you that you have an ultraviolet light source inside. Remember, sunglasses don't work against this stuff. Okay, you would need welding goggles. All right, folks. Thank you for your time.